Hello and welcome to PodCrash number 22. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's good. And today's guest is Magnus Backstedt, so that's going to be coming up just after we do the news. So Phil, what is your news this week?
My news is that we are in Yorkshire, in Harrogate.
Yep.
And we're here with our camper van and coffee setup and our portable recording studio. So if you watch the video, you might see we literally sat in the front seat of a camper van.
Yeah, we are. So if you're coming down to the World Championships in Yorkshire, come and stop by in Harrogate. We're by the bridge at the fan zone by the Prince of Wales roundabout. If you put Prince of Wales roundabout into Google, it will come up and you'll be able to find us. We're also doing an event at the Rafa pop-up store in Harrogate as well. So that's on Tuesday the 24th at 4 p.m. And if you want more details, go into the Rafa Yorkshire Facebook page. And could you say Rafa properly, just so people aren't confused?
Rafa.
That's better.
Yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, so we've had a good couple of days here. We met lots of fans and stuff, which is nice. Some new people to the podcast as well, giving away plenty of free coffee, talking rubbish, all that kind of stuff.
At the Rafa pop-up, we actually have Owen Du and Chris Lawless confirmed now.
Yeah, they're confirmed.
King of Yorkshire.
And what are you going to call Duel?
King of Vuelta.
We didn't win it.
Well, he still rode well. It was first Grand Tour.
I believe you have some news that you saw a camel chasing a cow.
Yes, I saw a camel chasing a cow this morning on the drive into Harrogate. It was like some animal farm.
I'm literally, because you never have news, I'm just clutching at straws to see if there's anything we can have at some point.
That was literally my news today.
So coming up now, we've got our podcast with Magnus Backstedt. But before we start, we have to give a shout out to our sponsors, which is La Marzocco, who provided the coffee machine here, and North Star, those two are providing the beans. And also thanks to Temper for sponsoring the event. It's a mattress like no other. And if you enter Cycling 100, you get £100 off a new Temper mattress, and you have to go to www.temper.co.uk to redeem. How was that?
You've done that very well.
Do you think?
Yeah. Do you even sleep on the Temper mattress?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Would you say it's the best mattress?
Yeah, I would say that, but what's more, my brother slept in it quite recently, and he said, wow, that's amazing.
You looked younger, I heard. You woke up looking younger.
Yeah, exactly. There's no end to the benefits. So today's guest is Magnus Backstedt, sprinter, our first foreign person we've ever had as a guest.
Wow,
I'm honoured.
I'm honoured. Thank you.
No, that's no worries. Yeah. Paris-Roubaix winner in 2004, won a stage of the Tour de France in 1998. So welcome to our PodCrash pop-up camper.
Thank you very much.
You're the camping man.
I'm a camping man. Yeah, we do camping, motorhoming every single weekend, basically.
Really?
Well, more or less with the girls and all their racing and everything else. It seems to be the cheapest option of getting to and from bike races and sleeping somewhere.
What's your favourite place to go to?
Any bike race.
Yeah.
No, we don't really do holidays as such. We asked the girls a few years back and kind of said, look, we can either do a big holiday every year, or we can basically do a lot more bike racing. What do you want to do? And they went, let's go bike racing. So that's what we're doing.
Oh, fair enough. Well, we're going to talk about your daughters later on, because there's some pretty exciting stuff coming up with those two as well. But I want to touch on your career quickly. I'm sure you're sick of talking about it, but we'll go into it anyway. So you started out as a skier.
Yes.
So did Phil.
Oh, really?
My parents took me skiing. I didn't start off like skiing.
No, I used to,
right.
as well as smoking. You used to do cross country skiing.
No, it's like training.
I was downhill skiing.
Not professional.
Downhill.
Okay.
Oh no, you would never do that. It's far too dangerous.
Oh no, I've been downhill skiing as well.
Yeah.
Have you ever been skiing?
Of course I have. Yeah, black runs and everything.
Really?
Oh yeah.
What,
I can't imagine you skiing.
I've got a dry slope where I used to grow up, but
Oh.
I've been to Courchevel as well.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we are.
So there you go. You took up skiing to start with, and then you switched over to cycling.
Yeah, no, I've run both for quite a long time actually, and it was only sort of I made it on to the senior national team as a junior in cycling, and that winter in the transition between the two, I kind of had a couple of big crashes in downhill, sort of 140, 160k an hour jobs.
Before the days of helmets?
No, with the days of helmets.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
So yeah, but it's still at 160k
still fast,
an hour.
yeah.
You notice it. It's like hitting the decks at 70k an hour on a bike. So for some reason I realised that I was probably better on the bike than I was on skis.
Did you keep skiing through your cycling career? Because you said in the German team you used to go there for training.
Yeah, we used to literally in the winter we used to go cross country skiing, and then 2 days of the week we go downhill skiing, and this was like considered training.
Yeah. To start off with, right at the beginning of my career, we kind of got taken up on the sort of autumn camp with the pro teams and whatever, but they quickly worked out that people were hurting themselves and we were all getting a bit wild, and sooner or later, well, I don't think it took 2 years until I had a clause in my contract: no downhill skiing, no motorbikes, no nothing like. So it's like all the fun things got banned.
Yeah. That's a given in the British cycling contract now. No snow sports. And no smoking and no drinking, Phil.
It's not written in the contract.
It is, yeah.
It's actually.
Yeah, I've read it thoroughly, yeah.
Surely there must be drinking in there.
No, you're not allowed to drink.
Oh, that's a lie.
What, have you contradicted that? Anyways, but did you take to cycling quite naturally? Because I think one of the most notable things is that you're probably one of the biggest successful road cyclists ever, I guess. Because like I looked on Wikipedia is never a good example, but you're a big guy and raced heavier than me, about 94k or something like that.
Yeah, that was when I was fit.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Who'd you pilot on in the off season?
Well, no, I only put on a couple of kilos, but
so not as bad as Kat
now
then.
I'm nowhere near as fit as I used to be, so that's more that I was getting to. No, cycling. I always got told, even as a youngster, that I was too big, I was too heavy, I was never going to make it in cycling. I might as well stop straight away. But that just made it more fun to prove people wrong, didn't it? So you train a bit harder, you apply yourself a bit more, and it kind of worked out. So time trialing was always natural to me. That was straight from the gun. I think it took 3 months until I won my first national title at the age of 12, and then carried on. I was unbeaten until I turned professional. And it was just one of those things that I did. 100k team time trial was part of my growing up.
Unbeaten in time trials, unbeaten in road races.
Unbeaten in time trials.
Oh, right, okay.
No, not in road
I mean,
races.
that's still impressive, but unbeaten is pretty good going. Especially in this sport, because you show up, we get beaten all the time whenever we go racing.
Oh, you lose most races.
Yeah.
Well, when you win at the Olympics.
As did I. You did obviously do a lot more road races, and I was nowhere near as good at in them as I was on the time trial bike. So, but it's I love doing that. I love just pushing myself and doing the 100Ks with the big boys as well. That was pretty special. The training for that, and I think that really set me up well for a professional career as well. If you can ride 100K in under 2 hours on four guys, then you can do pretty much anything, because you can slow down to 46 and it feels quite nice and comfortable. Yeah. And you can add probably another 50 to 100K onto the distance that you're covering at that speed instead. And that just meant for me as a domestique, or sometimes I even turned into be sort of domestique and then have a 30-40k rest and then do the lead out as well. So, but it just meant the engine was built up massively for. And
your jersey can hold a lot of water bottles as well.
Apparently, yeah.
So you found yourself really at home, would it be fair to say, in the one-day races and the classics?
That's what I love doing. And I mean, the second Sunday in April, the Paris-Roubaix, it was a dream since I was 15 years old. That I had posters on the walls at home, and you sort of, you dreamt of that muddy day in Roubaix, and it became an obsession almost. And when I got to ride it the first time back in '98, and I finished 7th, and it was like, the experience was every bit as awesome as I'd hoped it would be. It was a wet year. Yeah. We were sliding around. There were motorbikes crashing left, right, and centre. It was just an epic day out. And I got to the finish and parked my bike up against the team truck, and the boss is coming over and gave me a pat on the back and said, "Well done, I finished 7th in my first Roubaix. That's awesome." I said, "I'm going to win this one day before I hang up my wheels," and that kind of became my career mission.
How old were you at the time?
So I would have been 23 years old when I did my first one.
Yeah. It's pretty young to even come 7th.
Yeah, it is fairly young. Yeah. Well, nowadays, obviously, they're rewriting the rule books on cycling a bit, with, Evenepoel coming on, and so many young riders are doing really extremely well in professional cycling. But back then, it was very young to do anything in the classics, really.
I guess knowing what I know, which is quite limited about Paris-Roubaix, it sounds like it can, as well as it being like one of the best races of your life, it can be one of the most painful and horrible, and like.
Yeah, it's almost, the cobblestones have got like a cut-off speed. So it's like, you know, if you're talking track cycling, you know, when you're getting on top of the gear and the gear is ticking over nicely, and then all of a sudden you drop it by half a kilometre an hour, and you're labouring that gear.
Oh yeah.
Cobblestones are exactly the same thing. You're travelling at a speed and you're floating on top of them. Well, floating inverted commas, but you're not going down in every rut there is. And then as soon as you drop half a kilometre below that speed, and you're not moving forward, and it becomes twice as hard to pedal the bike, and it doesn't matter what gear you put it in because you're not skimming across the top of them.
Okay, yeah.
You're in every rut, and the bike is bouncing everywhere. You can't get the traction down, and from that moment on, we're talking 2 kilometers, and your legs are gone.
I always thought that was a bit of a myth, because I always thought like sometimes on certain surfaces it's easier to go a little bit faster than it is a bit slower.
It's always easy to go faster.
Always on cobbles.
Always on cobbles. The faster you can go, the easier it is.
Oh, right, fair enough.
Bounce over them, maybe.
Floating, mate. That's what we said. Floating.
Yeah.
I want to pull up on something you said about, you know, you had posters on the wall about doing Roubaix and all that kind of stuff. And I guess a lot, you know, we talk a lot about cyclists that we speak to, like kind of realising their dream, and most of the time that's the Olympic guys, given that we've spoken to in the past. Obviously, it was like probably the biggest career win you'd ever had, I guess, in your entire career.
Like I said, for me, if I only won one bike race, that was the one I wanted to win. So that was my Olympic Games.
So it's euphoric high off the back of that, I guess. Yeah. But did you struggle with that kind of new success afterwards a little bit, or did you just keep on pushing, keep on trucking?
I think it was more the media attention afterwards to kind of work out a way of dealing with that and not having that impact in my training. And then I actually that autumn set out to change how I did things as well, because I thought there's no point in keep on doing the same thing and expecting the same result. I need to improve what I do. So my biggest fear throughout my whole of my career has always been that you sort of sit down and realize, okay, I'm the best at what I do, which is the same millisecond as you're the second best at what you do. So someone's always going to push harder, push further, try and find new ways of doing it, getting more aerodynamic on the bikes for lead outs, getting whatever it was, right? There's always going to be someone who finds that next edge. Yeah. And so I went about and changed coaches, which improved me an awful lot. The equipment we went through again, especially for the classics, but even starting to look at aerodynamics for lead outs and stuff like that, you know, because when you're doing basically for me it was a minute interval every time, which you guys know very much what that's like. But a minute effort, and
Phil doesn't know what that's like.
No, I know.
I know 30 seconds.
Oh, right. So give it another double that then.
That's going to be 2 vomits at the end of that.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was just you realise that then 15 watts is going to take you that much faster or that little bit further. So I really went about and sort of worked hard on improving every little bit, because I didn't want to be a meteor that landed on Earth and, you know, you did that one big event and then disappeared off the face of the Earth again.
The variation seems like quite a common theme for people who get a massive success and then continue. I think it comes quite naturally to a lot of the Team Pursuit boys, because they win gold at Rio and then the next week they're doing Tour of Britain with like Team Wiggins, and then they go on to Ineos or something like that. I think that's where maybe I struggled a little bit, because it was a centralised programme. It was the variation kind of lacked. It was the same system all over again. Yeah. And you've kind of found new challenges trying to switch positions and stuff a little bit.
Yeah, well, I've took a year out and then I went for Man 2 in the team sprint position, which is like very different for me because I'm only used to like 16, 17 second efforts. Yeah. So I found a bit of motivation there. So I think that's why I kept pushing on, really.
Yeah. I think you've got the best position because you get to spectate at the end of the race.
Well, Man 1. It was good leading up to Rio.
I want to ask you something about like cycling in general. So you've ridden for a whole bunch of different like Italian teams like Liquigas and all that kind of stuff. And obviously they had a reputation for being like super passionate, super fiery, and Team Sky kind of almost came in, it purposefully coming in with the opposite approach. You know, like very much logical, calculated, all that kind of stuff. Do you think the kind of introduction of Team Sky and Team Ineos and teams that are similar to that has been a positive or a negative for cycling? Because you hear a lot of people missing the passion a little bit.
I think the best way forward is having a bit of both, really going and sort of. I think we got to remember where we come from and where the sport has come from, and have the heritage with us. But at the same time, I like looking at new angles of doing things. So, but at the same time, it's finding that bit that we know that works, but what can we take from that and learn and apply to new methods and so on. So I do like the whole, you know, I know that marginal gains, I'm not really a big fan of the word, because it's not what it is. It's just basically looking at every detail and making yourself better at them. So yeah, for the lack
it's
of
a formalized version of what a lot of people have done anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was doing that back in 2004, 2003, leading into Roubaix. You know, took 17 frames and 14 front forks or whatever it was, and so many wheels with me to run one section across again and again and again, motor pace at the same speed every time.
Did you actually test 17 different frames?
I think it was 8 or 9 in total to be.
So you just rode them like 9 different frames down the same cobble section.
Yeah, with different front forks, different front fork combinations, different materials on the frames, different wheel sets, different lace ups on wheel sets, different tyre sizes. We tried everything that we possibly could to find something that worked for me and that I felt comfortable on. And obviously, the less power I have to put out, the better, really, because the power across one cobblestone section, you're looking at about the same as what they're doing in an individual pursuit over 4 minutes. And most cobblestone sections are between 2 and 5 minutes. So it's 27 individual pursuit efforts that you're doing throughout one day of 260 kilometers of racing. So even if you can save 5 watts, that's a huge gain towards the back end of the race when you're coming into the velodrome to try and win the thing. So I thought, we've got to look at everything, every possible way that we can do this to make the bike handle better, be smoother. I was the first person to ride 27mm tyres, and everyone laughed at me. And you know, our tyre supplier said, "No, we won't make them for you. We won't put them on your bike. You're stupid to do that." Now there's no one that rides smaller than 30. You know, but I was basically classified an absolute moron for putting 27mm tyres on my bike. It worked. I didn't puncture. I'm never punctured on Paris-Roubaix.
Really?
Because I rode
that's
bigger
incredible
tyres.
though as well. Yeah.
And the wheels as well. We sort of went with a climbing set of wheels that was a bit flexier and so on and so on. So,
well, given that you're actually more a kind of, so I guess with cyclists you get the artists and you get the scientists. So it sounds like you're kind of tipping a little bit more towards the scientist element a little bit.
I am, but with an awful lot of passion for the past as well.
I
you know, there are certain things that has worked from what the old guys used to do, and I always think we need to look back at history, whether that's in cycling or whether that's in life. We need to look back at history, realise what's gone on and how it's been done and so on and so on. Not necessarily take all of it with us, but appreciate what's there, and then you apply your thought process and your way, your take on things, and go forward in that way.
Did you ever have any, so going back to, so I guess I'll explain this a bit more. So I guess at track cycling, like if we see something that's like really flamboyant or like just a bit of a silly decision based on like emotion, we always go, that's so Italian. Was there ever any, you know, was there ever any moments, because you had a little fight with your tyre supplier, like is there any bits of it that you kind of really rubbed up against as well?
No, well, there probably is if I really...
Nothing that's lasting then, so that's quite good.
Nothing that's really kind of clicked in my head here now straight away and gone, oh yeah, that no.
You'll tell us off air then.
yeah, I will do after. Yeah.
So I think we're limited on time. We want to talk about your daughters as well. So I guess like talking about life after cycling, Phil's got a pretty keen question because he wants to take up something that we believe you did.
So when we've done some research, we saw you have a coffee company.
I sold my coffee company a while back. Yeah.
That's
actually Phil's second ambition because he wants to be a big businessman.
All right, there we are. Then.
So coffee first, then big business.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the company that I set up was basically after 2004 when I won Roubaix. I realised I was in a privileged position to try and put something back into the sport. So I love coffee, so I created my own blend. And we started selling it on the internet and various different small...
Did you roast it all yourself?
No. We had a small roastery that did it, but we basically we took the orders and we roasted every batch to the exact amount that we needed for each bag that we sold. So it was a weekly kind of turnover on it. So it's fresh at the end of the week every time, going out to the customer, then rocking up at their letterbox on the Monday, having been roasted on the Sunday.
Oh, nice.
So it was a very, very nice coffee in that way. But with the proceeds, I started sponsoring some younger athletes, and they might not have had parents who'd had the means to take them to bike races or whatever. So it was just a way for me to say, look, if you want to go to that bike race, let me know what the fuel is going to be like or what you need for accommodation, and I'll pay it and get me the receipts, and that's sorted. So it was a way to sort of just help some younger people. It didn't necessarily have to be the most talented. It's just giving them the opportunity to stay in the sport, to do what they were passionate about.
And that's what keeps the sport alive. Is like, it's an expensive sport unless you've got a good community there to help out.
Yeah.
Have you got any tips then from either like a coffee entrepreneurial big business point of view for Phil?
No, I think anything that you do, just if you're passionate about it, it'll become a success anyway, because you're willing to work hard enough at it. And you guys know that already from what you've done within track cycling and your sport. It's if you believe in it and you love what you do, then it will become a success anyway, because you'll turn yourself inside out to make it happen.
No, for sure. Yeah. And so let's talk about your family. So we got Zoe and Eleanor, both pretty successful cyclists.
Yeah.
So it's becoming a bit of a dynasty almost, I guess, a little bit. Do you feel? I guess we've talked before, and you were like, I think I asked you, did you want your girls to be cyclists? And you were like, no, I didn't push them into it at all. Like, and everyone maybe thinks that, I guess.
Well, I think there's a lot of rumours that goes around at the moment, with what we do with those girls. But no, it was their own choice that Eleanor picked up a bike because I came home from the classics one year and she said, I want a bike like yours, Dad. And I just thought she wanted one with the same colours, but no, it was a little racing bike. So Bianchi made her a 24-inch wheel, full-blown race bike with everything. So she had a proper team-coloured Alessio Bianchi team-coloured bike to start off on, and she just never looked back. And every little hurdle she's had a fair few injuries, illnesses, and so on that she's had to deal with over a relatively young life so far, and has always wanted to come back and wanted to be better than what she was before. And I think with that, when you see that drive from her to want to do that, then you kind of realise that she's not doing it for me, she's not doing it for anyone else. It's because she wants to be good at it.
Is that one of the key points that you'd say to parents who do have a athletic young kid?
It is. You can't push them to do what you want them to do.
No helicopter parents.
No, definitely not. It's if they want to do it, then both Meg and me will turn over backwards to make sure that we take them to get them to the races, to get them to training sessions, whatever it is. And over the last couple of years, that's been very interesting, with Eleanor riding in the junior category now. So she's racing in one end, and so he's racing in another part of the world. So we're kind of different locations on the weekends, and then get back home and train. So,
and do you have a degree of separation? Are you involved in coaching or anything like that at all?
No. I started with Eleanor to help her a little bit with the coaching, but then I realised also that she didn't learn certain parts of the coaching aspect. So, you guys know that your coach isn't always there right next to you. They can be remote coaches. So it's really important to learn the communication with the coach and pass on, how you feel, what your sensations are on the bike, all these sort of things. So I very quickly removed myself from that, and luckily we had some people around us that were happy to help out and do that. So we had a bit of a coaching group set up where she was feeding into that all the time, talking about what was going on. And
I mean, are you downplaying how easy that is though? Because I think there's so for instance, I know one of the guys in the team, Kev Stewart, coaches his wife, or did coach his wife at various points, Robin Stewart, and sometimes I feel like he gets really annoyed because he's not involved in the coaching at some points, and he'll look at the program and be like, what the fuck's that doing there?
Well, that happens.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah. And I think after I could see was it going into last year's winter. So she was going into first year junior, and I could see that something was wrong with her when she got up on the track. Watching it, especially on the track, is so easy to see because it's quantifiable, and you can see there was something missing, something wasn't right, and I was pushing for our coaches to find out what was going on, and it wasn't until sort of I finally went, well, so I'm taking it into my own hands now to make sure we find out what's going on, because this is not normal for her to. She was doing, lap times that were seconds quicker as a youth rider, and they were saying, oh, maybe it's just the bigger gears as a junior and whatever. I said, that's rubbish. So at that point, I stepped in and took charge, and it took me about 30 minutes to find where what had happened where, and looking at the heart rate that had come up there, it was a typical glandular fever kind of scenario. The power falls off by 100 watts, the heart rate doesn't go above 170. Hang on a minute now, that's not rocket science. And since then I've very much stayed on top of watching what's going on, but not interfering unless
as best you can.
Unless I see the need to.
Okay. And I guess so. I got kind of two questions here. So you've done a bit with the British racing scene towards the end of your career. So it's a two-part question on how you feel the health of the British racing scene is, and then also with your daughters being involved in women's cycling, obviously what you think about that and how that could go. So
unfortunately, the men's scene in the UK is looking rather dire going forward. I don't know what's happened and why that's happened. So when I rode for a couple of years, right at the very end of my career here, it was really quite good. It built on that again, got even better for about 5 or 6 years. But what I think happened is that there were so many teams that were selling their sponsorship based on the fact that they were going to go to Tour of Britain. And then that didn't happen because Tour of Britain and as awesome as it is to have Tour of Britain there, and I absolutely love the fact that we got such a big stage race here, but the way that the teams were using it meant that they could probably get 2 or 3 seasons out of it. We're going to go to Tour of Britain and then not get selected or not qualify, as it has been over the past couple of years. And then the sponsors going, oh, why that? And you can sort of, it was just a mess up or something. But I don't know where it's come from and why we're all of a sudden losing all of these big teams.
A lot of riders had to quit because of it as well.
So of course. I mean, it's a really a bad situation, and it's expensive to carry on racing off your own back. And if you're 27, 28 years old, and where are you going to go? Because you kind of past your years of going professional out in Europe. Let's face it, these days, unless you're 22, 23 years old, even then you're pushing it to being quite late. So right now it's like, okay, if there's any young riders coming up, I'd say take this step across to Belgium, France, wherever you can get a ride in the club team, rough it out, because it is rough and hard out there.
Make some or break some.
But then you can go back to your studies if that's what you need to do or want to do. And I think for me that was one of the best things, as I finished my A-levels with, I sat my parents down and I said, look, can you help support me for until I'm 23 years old? I'm either professional at that point or I'll pack up, I'll go back to uni and I'll get the best education that is humanly possible to get. And I put all my effort and energy into that. So I kind of put that pressure on myself to make the step. And I think for me, that looking back at it, it's the best thing I've ever done, because it took me about 18 months until I signed my contract.
Okay. And the women's cycling angle as well?
Women's cycling, I think that is growing very, very quickly and getting better and better. Interesting is going to be the next 2 years, I think, now with the new Women's World Tour and the two-tiered level of UCI racing, what's going to happen to the club teams and so on. So there's a lot of change happening. But I feel it's a positive change, and there seems to be more and more TV broadcasts as well about with women's racing. So I have a feeling that that is the biggest growth that we have in the sport going forward. Both from bike manufacturers, kit manufacturers, everyone, they want more women involved in.
It's quite a positive outlook on the whole.
I think it is, and so if you're talking about my 2 girls, I think they're in a great position to be part of that game-changing generation. And so for the next 5 to 6, 8 years, whatever it's going to be, that's going to be the changing time of professional women's sport. And I think that there's a lot of brands out there, a lot of big female-specific companies that are waiting for a new venue to advertise down, and the marketing money. And obviously, if you're looking back at the ROI on professional male cycling has been 10 to 1 for the past 10, 15 years at least. And I think for women's cycling, once that really takes off and gets the media it deserves, I think we're in for the same kind of gold rush for a number of years there. Okay, that's positive than a lot of other people we've had on about the state of women's cycling. Probably a little bit more negative about the state of British cycling than a few people we've had. But well, you know, you have to call it how you see it. I look at it and it is going downhill, and I've been somewhat wary about this for a few years now. The fact that we are only doing crit racing with the odd couple of road races, and the road races are always, you know, in the middle of nowhere, where there's you know the Swannies and the mums and dads who come and watch. We need to get the road races into the centre of towns, but then the British public aren't particularly happy about shutting down their town centres for racing. There's been a lot of arguments here about blocked driveways. Exactly. But
it's a world championship.
Let's not look at it positively, because this is, you know, the amount of people that are going to come through this particular part of the world over the next 5 days, and the money that's going to generate for the local businesses and whatsoever. I mean, huge. How can that not be a positive thing? Absolutely, whether your driveway gets blocked for 5 minutes or not. You know. So final question before we let you go off and drink champagne and talk shit. I'll do that. I'll do that very well. What's your predictions for tomorrow, if that's not an unfair question? For tomorrow, I think a realistic expectation is a top 5. I think I'd be over the moon if she medals again. That means that she's medaled in every major championship that she's done this year. You know, even I mean, it's just been a bonkers year from Eleanor's point of riding. You know, with Nation Cup wins, she's got a couple of them, and she's got 2 European titles and medals at the Worlds on the track, and so on and so on. If she can finish off a big long season with another medal, then that would be far beyond my for sure. And I think you've got a lot to be proud of, despite what happens tomorrow. But it's going to be a good race, I think, and we're also thinking about getting her on. So tell her we're hopefully nice to deal with. The coming into a van with 2 boys isn't quite as scary as you might think. That's all right. That's all right. No, I'm sure we can. I'll have a word and see if we can get her on, because it'd be good. No, for sure. Well, thanks very much for coming on. We always give our guests a chance to give shout outs to projects or social media, whatever you want. So if you want to plug something, now's the time. Well, you know, if you're out there in the UK and you're looking for a good bike fit, look up Backstedt Bike Fit. Okay, cool. Find it on the web, BackstedBikeFit.com. Easy as that. There you go.
Any social media handles or anything?
It's all the same. Basically, it's whether it's Twitter, it's I think it's Backstedt BIK Fit, because I think got too long in his surname really, so he messes up Twitter. And so Instagram is Backstedt Bike Fit as well. Okay, nice. Cool. Well, thanks very much for coming on. Enjoy this afternoon's hospitality, and we look forward to catching up with your daughter after hopefully a very successful race tomorrow. Thanks very much for coming on. Cheers. Thanks. So thanks again, Magnus, for coming on, and we'd just like to give a quick shout out to our sponsors before we sign off for this podcast. So obviously we're here in Harrogate in Yorkshire doing a podcast pop-up. It's been great to meet lots of fans. We've got North Star Roast providing the beans. We've got La Mazzocco providing the coffee machine, and also thanks to our sponsor Temper. A mattress like no other, and if you enter Cycling 100, you can get £100 off a Temper mattress. So you have to visit www.temper.co.uk. So tune in tomorrow. We're going to have another one coming out maybe tomorrow or the day after, so stay tuned.